show.
No, glad to be here.
Yeah, no, thanks, Denny. You've obviously got quite the reputation.
Oh no, that can't be good.
But you've been at Databricks for you've done a couple of stints, right? I think you sort of total about
That's right. Yeah,
8 or 9 years
I
across
joined
a couple of stints.
Yeah, I joined in 2015. I left in 2016 purely for personal reasons.
Okay.
And then in return, the leadership was dumb enough to let me back in 2018, so that's their fault. And then I've been there since 2018. So So depending on how you count it, technically 10 years or 8 years. Yeah, depending on how you count it. So
yeah, fair dues. Yeah, well, you know what they say: if you make the same mistake twice, it's their fault, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's
brilliant.
First time they let me in, no, that's definitely my fault. But the second time, no, that's their fault now. Yeah.
And you also you've got a podcast, right? You do your own thing.
That's right. So Brooke Winnick and myself do the Data Brew by Databricks podcast. It's currently on hiatus because we're both just a tad bit overloaded right now. This AI wave is definitely taken us big time. She's doing her thing, I'm doing my thing. So we haven't had time. We will bring it back soon. Depending on when you're watching this particular podcast, we'll figure out what that actually is. But
yeah.
By the same token, yes, that is.
Well, I noticed it was it gets plugged into a few of the certifications and the accreditations that you can do. So I recently did, I think it was Sales Ready. It's one of the partner certifications. And as you go through the learning, the podcast is plugged in several times across those accreditations. So it's definitely getting advertised out there, which is good.
Sweet. No, good to know. Seriously, I did not know that.
Yeah. Well, great to have you on the show, as I say. I always like to try and start the episode with just a bit of a introduction to the guest, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, Denny, and I guess your journey to where you are today, if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely. You want me to start, or do you have any specific questions you want to dive into on this one?
Just go through an intro, Just tell me a little bit about the journey, and particularly the last sort of 7 years since you've been at Databricks, and what that's looked like for you, how the role's evolved, and kind of what your responsibilities are today, and how you serve Databricks today in your role.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, okay, just to give a little context or background, I used to be over in the SQL Server team, the SQL Server Customer Advisory team, back in, my goodness, the early aughts, right? The late 90s, early aughts. I worked with some of the largest enterprises when it comes to database systems. I focus more on the data warehousing and the Power BI side of things. If you ever want to bore yourself to death, you can always pick up the book Power Pivot for Excel and SharePoint. That's how far I'm going back, baby. Yeah. So
okay.
And then one thing led to another, which I ended up being part of Project Isotope at Microsoft, which was the team that introduced Hadoop into Microsoft, actually. And so it was pretty cool. I loved working on it. We were a startup inside a corporate environment, which was really cool. And that actually, that made me happy. I love being startup boy, right? So that was just enjoyable. And then, that one thing led to another, which basically, because Hadoop was hot, that basically I shifted over to Spark naturally. The running joke I had was that I was working with Yahoo. Yahoo, we actually had the largest analysis service at the time. This is back in 2011, I think. Largest analysis services cube on the planet at 24 terabytes. And the source of it was at the time, one of the largest Hadoop clusters, because it was Yahoo running the Hadoop cluster. And it was something like 2,000 nodes or something like that. I don't really remember the exact number anymore, but it was pretty stinkingly large. And we had the most expensive Oracle rack staging server ever, which was basically the system that served the data into the analysis services cube. If y'all who are listening want to listen to, there's a gentleman by the name of David Mariani, still a good friend of mine, who's the co-founder of AtScale. He and I were the ones who actually helped put this thing together. We ended up even this was the first time Microsoft actually presented a Hadoop World. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was either Hadoop World or Hadoop Summit. Either way, it doesn't matter. Another one exists anymore, but yes, it was the first time Microsoft did that, and that got me into foray of Spark, because we were like it took us, what was it, an entire week to process a quarter's worth of data, right? And so that led me to Spark going like, I can't keep doing this, right? Like this is just a bad idea. And then one thing led to another. I started working on the Apache Spark project like near 0.6. And that
0.6
ultimately,
meaning, is that like the 0.6 is that like the iteration of Spark? So very early days.
yeah. Literally 0.6. Yeah. It was like, it was before we were 1.0. Yeah. So I was the odd man. Everybody was this, super smart technical Berkeley or, super smart from the Valley. And then there's this like weird guy from the Pacific Northwest going, hey, I love the Spark thing too. Right? So they're like, what the hell? Right. And so I get to know the founders, ultimately the founders of the company, because I've been working with them actually, right? Like on the Apache Spark project. And then one thing led to another. The whole reason I ended up joining was because I accidentally stumbled into it. They said, hey, would you mind creating an Apache Spark meetup in Seattle? I said, sure, why not? So I ended up creating it right out the gate because we lucked out because of a bunch of confluence of events. 300 people showed up. So
wow.
It's like, okay, not too shabby for your first one, right? So
yeah, really good turnout.
So that led to the crew going like, hey, maybe we should have you join us. But I had just joined Concur at the time, and so I was like, no, I love you guys, but I can't do that. Not to mention, they wanted me to move down to San Francisco. I'm like, look, I love you guys, really, I do, but this ain't happening. I'm such a spoiled person here in the Pacific Northwest, right? And so then but the next year, just happenstance. That's a whole other funny story. But the TLDR version of it is basically I went ahead and just end up meeting with the crew, and they're like, "Hey, we figured out a way where you can stay in Seattle but still work with us." I'm like, "Cool. Where do I sign?" And that's how I joined. Yeah. And then,
and are you still in Seattle now, Denny?
Oh my God, yeah. No, that's still true.
So they've not managed to convince you to move.
No, I fly down a lot actually, but no. The funny story is technically, here's a little bit of trivia for you. Technically, my house was the first Databricks remote office.
Oh, really?
Technically, I was the first remote employee, and so my house technically wasn't. Obviously, it wasn't meant to be that way, but the idea is just like trying to get all the logistics laid out. But anyways, the point being, I was employee number 58 or somewhere around there, okay, for the company. So right now we're about 10,000 people. Okay, so I joined in 2015. Right, there you go. See, it's getting old. I can't even remember stuff like this. 2015, and it's 2025 right now, and we're 10,000 people. So to say things have changed is putting it lightly. So we have a lot more processes than we used to. Yet we still actually operate like a startup. It's amazing to watch. We have teams that will be super creative. Yeah. Teams are super creative. The founders are still very deeply involved with the company. They will go review all the PRDs still. Like they will redline them to death. It's amazing to watch. We get extremely good feedback from the founders all the time, right? And then teams that are creating, they're all super small teams that have the authority to do the things they need to do. It's really cool to watch. Yeah. So obviously, at 10,000 people, it's a lot harder to be a startup, right? Let's stop all the pretense. But by the same token, we still, interesting enough, operate like one. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard from a few Bricksters that Ali's quite regularly, in Slack and communicating with the team and whatnot. So
I don't think Ali sleeps. Yeah, no. I don't think it sleeps at all. I think I'm already bad enough as it is, and then I watch what Ali does. I'm like, yep, not gonna be able to pull that off. That is a whole level of insanity that is amazing to watch. Yeah.
I think to be able to grow a business at the rate of Knott's Databricks has grown, it takes a very different kind of leader, right? And as you say, whether he sleeps or not, he's doing a lot of stuff.
Dude, when I was at Microsoft, we would read all these Harvard Business Reviews, right? And to understand how business is supposed to run and yada, 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 right? And, when I joined Databricks back in 2015, it was like 5 PhDs and a professor. Like in every single scenario of every single Harvard Business Review, this is not going to work. Like, I mean, candidly, when I joined, I was like, oh yeah, 3 years tops, right? And then within 3 months of joining, I'm like, okay, there's something super special here.
Yeah.
Like
How did the
yeah,
sales come? Like the sales side would interest me because I think,
yeah.
like you say there, you've got some very, very intelligent people, very technical people setting the company up, probably not sales necessarily orientated. How did where did the sales engine come into fruition for Databricks?
Oh, yeah. I mean, candidly, the sales engine was very much in the vein of very technical people. Okay,
Mm,
especially during the early days. If you took an existing like SA, all right, solution architect, right?
mhm,
They themselves could, in most cases, be an engineering lead, engineering manager at any other company. Like we required our SAs to be extremely technical. The whole reason actually I was an SA when I joined because that actually would have fit my profile is just that due to personal reasons, I could not travel. That's what it
mhm,
boiled down to. And
mhm,
so because those personal reasons prevented me from traveling, that's why I ended up going more on the DevRel side of the house as opposed to the sales side of the house. Mind you, even to this day, I still technically have customers, which is an odd thing for a DevRel to say, but it is what it is, right? So,
mhm,
but
mhm,
the context unequivocally is that we weren't the traditional sales. We went out and actually provided real technical context, technical background to the users. And remember, at the time, it was Apache Spark. So in other words,
mhm.
we had super technical people talk to other technical people, right? So that our sales was more straightforward from the standpoint like, oh, that's what you're doing in Apache Spark. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, then maybe we'll use you guys. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. So the technical people almost become like the ambassadors of the product, and then they're having the
Correct.
conversations internally, speaking to their managers. We need to be using this tool. We need to be using this product, and it kind of sells itself through those technical conversations. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And then part of the evolution, like, Ron Doritzko joined and
Mm,
he's damn good at what he does. Let's just put it like
mm,
call a spade a spade. All right. Damn good at what he does. And it was basically the best way I can describe it is like he kept that vibe going, which is very much the sales. And this is not a knock on marketing, by the way, to be very clear about it. But it was almost like marketing be damned. We go out and have to have extremely technical people talk to the customers directly. And again, not knocking marketing. This is not an attempt to do that at all, right? This
mm,
is very much just the persona or the idea that you hire people that are technical enough that can actually have real conversations with customers. That's it. That was
mm,
really, that seemed like a genuinely new idea at the time. To us, it was sort of obvious because we were doing it anyways, and maybe we probably didn't realize that was our process at the time. But it's obvious that Ron understood that, and so he just
mm.
took that to 11, as they would say, right? So just if you're so I don't know, Daniel, I don't know if you're the Spinal Tap, but but if you're not, that's just an old reference. That tells you how old I am. That's all that.
Yeah.
But the context unequivocally was that we were going after a technical market, so we expected ourselves to have very technical conversations. And over
Mhm,
time, obviously, we shifted where Ali would constantly go ahead and say things like, make Databricks simple. Like, how do we make it easier? How do we make it better to understand? How do we simplify things, abstract things away so that way it's easier for the users to both save money and also go ahead and achieve their goals, right?
mhm,
Excuse me. Like, do you need to care about the cluster sizes? If we can, that's why part of the reason we have serverless right now, right? Just like,
mhm,
no, let's find a way to make it easy so they could just pay for more speed or less speed, but the idea is it just gets done. That's it.
mhm,
That's your answer, right? And so it allowed us then to also evolve our salespeople, right? So now our salespeople were talking more about scenarios than the actual technical stuff. Like it's very rare that we actually need to go in and right out the gate go and say, okay, so here's how you go ahead and fine tune a large language model, right? Or
mhm,
here's how you go ahead and try to go run this particular data warehousing query. Typically, it's very much in the, oh, you can do that. Yeah, yeah. And here's how you do it. And here's how simple it is. Oh, cool. Okay. And then we still have these like what they call SSAs, specialist solution architects,
mhm,
that still relive like the old Databricks of old, where you have like some super technical company that wants to dive into it, and we're like, sure, no sweat, let's dive into it. What do you want to know? And then we go in to like, yes, here's how you fine tune a large language model. Here's the reason why you do it. Here's how expensive it is. Here's how cheap it is. Here's the modus operandi you want to work with, right? The idea that you want to have lots of small little models instead of like one gigantic model, things of that nature, right? And so in the data engineering side of the house, where most of our conversations with customers are very much into how do I make this run faster and cheaper? Got it. Let's have that conversation, right? In the case of LLMs or Gen AI, we still have a broad range. Sometimes it's exactly that. How do I get it to run faster, cheaper? And sometimes it's like, okay, let's debate on which type of curriculum learning we're going to go run on this thing now, right? Okay. So there's still that broad range on the Gen AI side, and what's great. So we have lots of technical people that can actually have that type of conversation, which is sort of fun.
So are you finding then that there's more demand for more of the general essays than there is the SSAs? Typically?
Okay. In terms of quantity, yes. Okay. Just because, right, like the platform itself is designed extremely well, so that way we can abstract enough of it away where instead really we want to be talking about use cases and scenarios. And don't get me wrong, that's actually on the same thing for Gen AI. This is not just a data engineering statement, right? More times than not, it's more like, hey, I've got a problem. What's the right solution? And maybe it usually is a combination of everything from like data ingestion all the way to Gen AI, right? So the idea is that we actually have the ability for a quote unquote general essay to have a proper conversation with customers on how to implement that. You know, we try to embed a lot of our learnings and documentation into the product itself, things of that nature. Like Databricks, for example, is a culmination of all the learnings we have from the thousands of Gen AI customers. And we put those opinionated learnings right in there right away. Doesn't mean if you're super technical that you can't go ahead and still figure out how to do this stuff, right? It's just more a matter of like, hey, for the vast majority of people, they don't want to necessarily be a PhD in this stuff. Well, cool. Sure. Use Databricks, make your life easier, right? That's it.
Yeah. Brilliant. And then so today then, Denny, what does your role look like? What are your responsibilities? You mentioned before a bit more on the sort of development side as opposed to the owning the customer relationship. So what? Interested to hear more about your position.
So my title is technically PM Director of Developer Relations. What does that mean? Still don't know, actually. And honestly, I never knew, even when I joined the company. I think my title was Technology Evangelist, right? But here's the best way I describe it instead. My job is to help developers succeed. Okay? If I was to just give you that 11-word or 11-second pitch, right? My job is to help developers succeed, okay? Like when you as a developer, I don't care what type, data engineer, data scientist, whatever, data analyst, I really don't care, okay? App builder, okay?
Yeah.
When you choose Databricks or the technologies that we heavily utilize, whether we contribute to the open source community or whether we just utilize it really, really well, okay? Whenever you choose Databricks or Databricks technology, we recognize that the developer themselves has taken a career bet on us, right? You've decided that your career is going to grow because of Databricks or Databricks technologies, okay? Whether you realize that or not, I'm not entirely sure, but the reality is that's what you've done, okay? I learned, one of the great things I learned at Microsoft was that entire idea. Like when the idea is that, especially for example, when Oracle was the big database, right? And I was part of the SQL Server team. We learned early on the reason SQL Server could become more popular. The reason was because we recognized early on that these developers were now going to take a career bet on SQL Server or analysis services or whatever else, right? They were taking a bet on us. So we ourselves must make sure that we're respecting the developer that's making that bet, and we want to help them out. You know, whether it's education, whether it's free services, whatever. But the point is that we want to, that's our job as DevRel, okay, to be able to go ahead and have that connection. The reason I'm a little bit more odd is just because since I'm old, I have lots of old customers from my previous life. And so I often incorporate and end up being either directly working with the customers. At minimum, I'm a stakeholder. At maximum, I'm actually working directly with the customers. Why? Because I'm trying to help that customer succeed. Right? It's simple as that. Right? And so, but underneath the cover, when I say customer succeed, what is it? It's the developer.
Sure.
It's the developer that is that customer. That's part of the reason I have quote unquote customers, because I have these long-term relationships from my years at Microsoft. And they all shifted over to Databricks with me, basically, one form or another. You know, not right away. It's not like I said, hey, come to Databricks, and they all jumped over. It's just over time, they're like, hey, Denny, you're at Databricks. We used to work together. Tell me a little bit more about Databricks, right? So then, and so that was great, because then these architects or even VPs would go like, oh, man, well, Denny says we should look at it. Maybe we should. And just because I worked with them a lot in the past at Microsoft.
Yeah, they trust you. And
Right. And so I could go ahead and have that type of really candid technical conversation. So they're willing to take a bet now with me, because they're like, they took a bet with me before. I helped them then. They're like, okay, well, then it's worth maybe taking a bet with you now too. Right. And I think we've done pretty good. Right.
Yeah.
I could probably say that, right, without sounding too obnoxious. Right. I think we've done pretty good. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to. So now, the details of how we do this is very, very different depending on the person, right? And so that's the key thing. Like, people often will ask me, like, what do you do for the developer? I'm like, no, we specifically have targets for each individual developer. Like, maybe we can merge into a set of personas. That's fine. Like, you know, because we're trying to scale this thing, but there's only so much scaling you can do when it comes to, I'm helping you. I'm helping the developer, right? So maybe I have a template to work off, because you said, okay, data engineer. So, okay, are they more catalog centric? Okay, let's talk about Unicatalog, right? Or do they care about Iceberg and Delta Lake? You got it. Let's have that conversation right into it. Do they care about Spark? Okay, no problem. They're more about the query engines. Okay, I can templatize them all of that side, and including maybe the Photon engine, right? Are they more into classic machine learning? People keep forgetting. Everybody talks about Gen AI. It's also blown up like actual classic machine learning. People are saying, oh yeah, we could save money by just doing classic ML. Yes, you can. So all of a sudden we're talking classic ML, or you toss an ML flow to basically be able to do the tracing, right? Or once we do that, they shift over Gen AI, because ML flow is extremely well designed for Gen AI. And then they're realizing, oh wait, you mean the same ops tracking that I'm doing for machine learning I could do for Gen AI? Yeah, absolutely. And so they start shifting over to Gen AI as well. All right. So you can definitely group people together like that. Like, you know, the persona, the data scientist, data analyst, the data engineer, data practitioner, blah, 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 blah. Right. But the key thing is that that's the starting point. That's not the ending point. Every time you're building up relationships with engineers, right, you're recognizing, like, they're from DC, they're from New York, they're from Seattle, they're from San Francisco, they're from London, they're from Singapore, whatever, right? They all have their own backgrounds, their own growth, their own path. And so you try your best to actually help each individual do well. It's hard to scale that way, but honest to God, that's the point. It is hard to scale, right? And so you build a really good cadre of first followers, and they themselves do that. You build up a community, right? That's the important thing. And so ultimately, what do we do? It's like I said, it's about helping that developer, but then we do all of these different things to figure out how to scale that process.
And are the developers, are these internal Bricksters, or are you working with customer teams and customer engineering teams?
All of the above.
All of the above.
Absolutely. Yeah. We actually work with internal teams, but we more times than not work directly with the community. Okay. But then you mentioned customers. Yeah, customers have developers. Developers are part of the community, so customers are absolutely included. Like, that's why part of the reason why I myself have a cadre of customers. You know, again, I'm DevRel. Technically, I'm not supposed to have it, but I do. I'm either stakeholder, or I actually literally will help the customer go build something. Like, you know, and I actually in the day-to-day ops with it. Right. It depends on the situation, right? And that's the great thing about DevRel from the standpoint of, you have the flexibility, but then what sucks is you have the flexibility, right? And so what keeps you honest and what keeps you focused is that central core idea: I'm helping the developer.
Yeah.
Like to at risk of going all Steve Ballmer on you, developers. Right. That's it.
Yeah, interesting. And a couple of things I want to touch on as well.
Mhm.
So, yeah, community-wise, interested to kind of hear a bit more about your experience. You mentioned the first Apache Spark meetup had 300 people attend, which is great. Particularly for a first-time event.
Heck
I
yeah.
set up and run the Manchester Databricks user group.
Mhm.
So we kind of started this initiative about 18 months ago, potentially a little bit less than that. And we've
Okay.
now got about 750
Sweet.
members. We don't get like that many people come to that come to each meetup. We probably get about 100, 110 to the meetups.
That's all. Dude, that's
with
awesome numbers, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going well, to be fair. And Databricks have been really good. They'll send some of their local RSAs to come and either do a talk themselves or just be on hand to, answer any questions from the audience. But yeah, just any, I guess, where have you seen some of your sort of biggest achievements and successes when growing the community, Denny? What's kind of worked for you guys?
Oh, I mean, it really depends on what you're talking about. But let me give you two specific examples. Okay. For example, when Databricks first started, we were growing the Spark community, right? Unequivocally, it was the most important thing we needed to do. So yes, I was quote unquote a technology evangelist. It was me and my buddy Jules Damji. We were technically the DevRels, if you want to think of it this way, but it was embedded right into the founders, right into key engineers. They'd all be educated. Like our job was to educate the community, right? That literally was a crucial core part. And so in terms of building a community, yeah, we end up building this like, it's still there. Go to spark.meetup.com. Like at the time, the last time I even bothered looking were something like 500,000 members or something silly like that. Like just a gigantically large pool, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so growing the community allowed people to understand how cool Spark was, allowed the community to go ahead and get back to us on what they liked and what they disliked about Spark so we could improve the product, and so forth and so forth. And so it allowed us to actually do things as simple as figure out ways to improve Apache Spark itself and also realize which areas where people willing to pay money, which allowed us to then start building the platform that we now have today, right? But for example, that's a very different modus operandi than, just this year. Like we started this year an experiment. We called it the Dev Connect Meetup Series, right? What we call sort of like a marquee series of meetups. Same idea, like similar to like the Data Night World Tour, but not as big. We only have 200 to 300 people show up to this. Like,
okay,
obviously, I say that in jest, but this is a wonderful call out to the Data Night World Tour where we start filling out stadiums. So no, we're not trying to do the stadium thing at all. Like that's not our interest, right? If you already are a super fan of Databricks or a super customer, yeah, of course, Data Night World Tour 100% is the right most operandi, and you should absolutely go. So this is not this isn't trying to. It's like the Taylor Swift style of like fill up an arena type deal. And by the way, the reason I can only call it Taylor Swift is because I still remember as in 2015, I think Derek Harris from Fortune that was his quote. He's like, Apache Spark is the Taylor Swift of big data, or something. I'm paraphrasing, but so that's the only reason I can still have a reference to Taylor Swift here. Okay, but like I said, so we started doing these marquee events because we're targeting developers, right? We really want to help the developer, right? And so we're only targeting about 200 300 people. It turns out people loved it, like by a lot. In fact, I think the India one, it got so popular that it was more closer to 500 or 600, or something much higher. So we're like, okay, cool. I guess we need to run more of these. So long story short, like before the crowd was wanting us to talk about specifics of like why do you need a broadcast hash join with an Apache Spark? Why did you go ahead and redesign the JVM? Access the JVM in this particular way, so that way we could go ahead and use the Catalyst optimizer. All right, those were the conversations we had in the past. What we have the conversations now is like literally from technical scenarios to why do we design tech in particular? Why do we create Photon as an example, which is optimized for BI? Like, why do we truly believe the idea that we want you to have a bunch of small models versus very large models in GenAI? Why is unique catalog extremely important? Because that way you build governance right from the beginning, and so forth and so forth. Like, you know, people often have questions like around lake base, which makes a ton of sense. It's like, why is Databricks caring about all TPs? Like, well, funny thing you asked. Technically, you asked for it. You were all asking, hey, we would love a database. We're like, okay, cool, let's go build one. And then we ended up acquiring. We started building our own with Lakebase, and then we acquired Neon. It's like, yeah, makes sense. Seems people like it, so let's go do this now. Yeah. So that's more or less the modus operandi, which is like in the end, we started more smaller user groups 101. Now our version of smaller thing is still a 200-person meetup.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So things have changed for obvious reasons. And it's a testament to how wonderful Databricks is, how cool it is, right? It's a testament to, so for example, I own the URL. When I returned to Databricks the second time, before I did that, I bought the URL because this is what I believe Databricks was. And I said, I bought the URL Data AI OS, as in we're the data and AI operating system, right? Because so don't worry, everybody that's listening to this podcast, if you're wondering, is Denny drinking the Kool-Aid? Oh yeah, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid big time. Like, I joined Databricks because I thought we were going to do something amazing. Like, I thought we were fundamentally shifting what we were doing in the age of data and machine learning. At the time, Gen AI wasn't the conversation, so obviously it was focusing on that. But the point is that, like I said, I left for personal reasons. It wasn't because I had a problem within Databricks. Okay, I've kept friendships there the entire time, so that's why it was easy to say, "Hey, can I return?" They're like, "Of course." They're like, "Yeah." It's not like I went quiet on them. We've been chatting the entire time. I've been hanging out with the engineers the entire time. So I was like, we're all known factors. So I was just like, "Hey, can I come back?" And they're like, "Of course, dude. Yeah, duh." So I came back.
We've been waiting for the phone call.
Yeah, exactly. Right, but but the context unequivocal is like, even when I left, it's not like I didn't believe in the mission of Databricks. I loved the mission of Databricks and still believed in the mission, and so of course I was like, that's why I want to return, because I truly believed in it. And so, like I said, I bought the URL Data iOS because it's like, no, that's how I think of Databricks right now. Back then, right, we're the data and AI operating system. So it's a testament to some really cool things that led by our founders to really push the boundaries on that definition of data and AI operating system. And so, so that means we can run a marquee meetup, right? That has 200 plus people that have wait lists only. But it's amazing. So we have to do more now, which is great. No, seriously, I'm not complaining. Quite the opposite. I love this. It's amazing to be at a time where basically people really, really want to either they super love your stuff, or they're so pissed off at you that they're literally like attacking us too. And I don't take it personally, by the way, to be very clear. I never take it personally, because I'm like, maybe the attack actually has some validity. All right, we screwed up. Let's go fix this. Maybe the attack is because it's a competitor. Okay, cool. Well, that means if I'm pissing you off, cool, I've done my job, right? Because if you're forgetting the developer, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. No, you're right. It's how the business is scaled, right? It's listening to feedback from the community and making those improvements. And you mentioned before about lake base and the demand from people. We want to be able to do this on-prem, or you make that acquisition to fix that, right? So you've got to listen to the complaints of where you are able to make the improvements,
right? And ultimately, that's why DevRel is so important from our perspective, because we're constantly having the conversation with developers the way the developer wants to have that conversation, right? So they're gonna be angry at times. Cool, I want to listen. They're gonna attack sometimes. No, let's just let it civil. By all means, go for it, right? Sometimes it's uncivil. We've seen it happen. Those are trolls. No problem. Not gonna listen, right?
Yeah.
oftentimes it's going to be wonderful feedback how we really help them do their thing. Cool. Reminds us that we're doing the right thing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in the end, having a high quality feedback loop and conversation with the developer, like I said, that's our goal here.
Yeah, totally. And then another thing I just wanted to ask is around like the skills needed, because as you mentioned before, one of the incentives of running the Apache Spark meetup is to help train people, and you need to create that wave of talent to be able to sort of scale as the business does. And I've been in the recruitment industry 13, 14 years. I've recruited for Databricks skills since 2018 was the first time I kind of had my first like Azure Databricks data engineer role that came through.
Sweet.
So, but I'm seeing there's definitely a shortage of skills. That you can see as the demand for Databricks continues to rise, it's becoming more increasingly difficult to keep the supply of talent at a sort of fair ratio. So I guess what initiatives are you guys Databricks working on to try and ensure that there's enough talent coming through to to keep up with the demand for the product?
Oh, no, thank you. That's an awesome question. Okay, and that's the whole reason we have Databricks Free Edition, right? The whole it's the V2 of the original Databricks Community Edition. Funny story. When it was originally built, we thought this thing would last till 2019. It still technically works right now. It's amazing. But obviously, we want you to use Databricks Free Edition instead, and it is free. Like, we're not asking for credit cards. We're not asking for anything like that. And so, to your point exactly, like, the combination of Databricks Free, like, actually, we show the QR code whenever we go to any of our events. Not just the Dev Connect series. I mean, just any of our events, right? We showcase one QR code that's for the free edition, so you can log in and go use it, and then we also go ahead and have a QR code for free training, so you can get yourself up to speed, right? And then another, we didn't put up the QR code for it, but another extremely important aspect is growing our MVPs, right? The basic people who are MVPs, they're the ones. Then remember how I mentioned to you, like when we were doing Apache Spark, we create a bunch of first followers, right? The idea is that they themselves, how we scaled is by going ahead, the people who followed, who loved what we were doing with Apache Spark, they themselves were writing blogs or document or working with the community or answering questions on distribution lists and so forth and so forth. Yeah, same thing, except officially what's it called? An MVP. Yeah. Right. In other words, you go ahead and learn on Databricks Free Edition, or you're already using it. And then because you blog, because you go ahead and answer questions, because you go ahead and build really good scenarios, because you do videos, you can become an MVP. And then we power the MVPs. We give them additional tools so they can do even more, right? So, for example, for the upcoming AI MVP program that we've got right now, we're planning out like regular conversations directly with our product management team. So anybody that's an AI MVP can go literally talk to our PMs directly. Stuff. It'll be a very small setup. We're not doing the 1 on 300 scenario. This is the 1 on 5, 1 on 10 type scenario.
Yeah. I think there's like 2 or 3 in the UK that I'm aware of, MVPs.
Yeah. There's Simon and Gavitha, for example, live from Advanced Analytics right away. Yeah. In fact, I'm talking to Gavitha right after this podcast.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, say hi. I know Gavitha.
Absolutely.
Well, so
Absolutely.
Tell her we've been chatting. But yeah, there's another Dan Williams. I'm not sure if you know Dan. He's MVP.
Yeah.
We've got a relationship with Marte over at DataPow. He's also MVP. So
right.
Yeah, it's a great initiative. So these guys, they're gonna again help kind of cultivate and build that next layer of
That's the only way we scale. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, it's the only way we scale, right? And that's an error, right? Because if you think about it, right, to your point exactly, like especially like you're trying to recruit people with Databricks skill sets, right? And so that way they are successful in their career. And so that's one part of it. And by the way, the other part of the program is also our University Alliance program. In other words, we go directly to schools, and we teach them how to utilize Databricks, right? Not just the like, oh, click, 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 as in, okay, here's the reason why we're doing it, right? We want comp sci students to actually understand what's happening underneath the covers. That's actually how we build our course material, right? So between the two things, that allows us to figure out how to scale. We're also going to be relaunching our MOOCs again. We used to be those used to be super successful, but it takes a lot of time. It's become very apparent.
What are they, Denny? What are they?
Oh, sorry, MOOCs.
MOOCs.
M-O-O-C. Sorry, massive online courses, basically. Yeah.
Okay. Hadn't heard that term before.
Oh no, it's okay. It's like when we first started, one of the first things we did was create a MOOC, and then it was super popular. Like, it allowed us to get folks to really learn about Apache Spark, right? And so then we did it in second wave, actually. I want to say back in 2019. I want to say roughly then. Oh yeah. It was time for when the great incident happened to the entire world.
Yeah.
So MOOCs were very needed at the time. So and we had already started designing the MOOCs even before that happened. So it's like, okay, cool. Well, I guess we need it now, boys and girls. Right? So we got it out. And so we're about to build the next wave of MOOCs, both on the data eng side and also on the GenAI side. Like, not both, sorry, everything from the data eng side to the GenAI side. So we're working on those things as well. So how do we scale teaching? How do we scale learning? University Alliance, Free Edition, and MOOCs. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, I'll be sure to keep an eye out for those. I was actually at one of the data intelligence days. I think it was like February, March this year, which I don't know if that's what you were referring to earlier when you were talking about the, the sort of 200-300 attendee events that you ran, because there was a sort of similar number at the Data Intelligence Day in London this year, so separate to the World Tour.
Correct.
Not sure if that's a different initiative or
no, that's a different initiative as well. Actually, yes. Okay. Data Intelligence Days is more of a marketing style event, right? Yeah, and then Data World Tour is more of a customer style event, and then Dev Connect is more of a developer style event. So yeah.
Okay.
So as appropriate, yes. So
yeah. Okay,
we've gotten big enough where we have to have initiatives that are similar to each other, but they end up still having a hugely different target market anyways. So
yeah, no, totally. Well, one of the other things I wanted to touch on with you, Denny, is around AI, because we're having lots of conversations. We're seeing customer demand for AI related projects. So one of the things that we've been doing on the podcast is kind of running a bit of a theme around AI readiness and like what that actually means, right? So yeah, just to get your take, like when we talk about AI readiness and when organizations say they're sort of getting ready for AI, what do you think sort of true readiness looks like from your perspective?
True readiness for something like this really requires leadership to go beyond FOMO. Let's start with that. Okay. In other words, there's a specific set of business scenarios that they're deciding that they want to experiment. That's the first thing. The second thing that's super important is this idea that then you have these specific teams, small teams, that are given the ability, the right to experiment and try things out. They're going to fail. That's why we keep on telling everybody, build small first. You're not coming in trying to build a $5 million pre-train a $5 million model. Right? That is not the answer to the question. I still remember early on when customers were talking to us and they're like, hey, let's pre-train a $5 million model. We're like, no. They're like, wait, what? Like, no, we don't want you to do that. And ultimately what ended up happening is that we had a bunch of customers that listened to us. And then when we said, no, we want you to just build a few $100 models to see if the thing works. That's all we want you to do. And so a bunch of them did right. What was even great is a bunch of the ones that were like pissed off at us that we said no to the $5 million ones. They'd be like, no, you don't have enough GPUs. And we just show the GPUs like, no, we have access to them. That's not actually the reason we don't want to give this to you. And then ultimately some hyperscaler would tell them to go do it. And then like a few months later, they come back to us like, yeah, you're right. Like, yeah. Yeah. And they're like, wait, so you're not going to make a lot of money on this? Like, no, of course not. Like, we're talking $100. Like, why? Like, but then why are you talking to us? It's like, because I want you to be successful. And ultimately, it's that mentality, which is like, you have a small set of teams in your company that are designed to try things out. They're going to fail. Good. Document that stuff. You have stakeholder leadership that understands they're going to fail. Good. Document and present. Present not just the successes, present the failures. So as more teams have these ideas, they get to learn from the original team. Right? That's actually, to me, AI readiness. Because in the end, if all you're doing is going to talk to me from a FOMO perspective, what you're doing is you're not building to create something. You're building because you fear something. And that almost always fails. Even if it works in the short term, it always fails in the long term. Because you're not actually creating something that actually truly helps the business, truly enhances the quality for your customers, truly pushes the boundaries in the positive way for your developers. You're not doing any of those things, right? And honestly, this AI readiness is to me is a marketing term, because I'm like, that's any other technology that we've ever had. Literally everything I'm quoting you right now, I literally could have quoted you from when I told people how to do BI, or when I told people how to do data science, or even data warehousing. You start small, figure out what makes sense for your business. Teach what worked well, teach what did not work well.
Yeah.
So everybody learns from it. That's what AI readiness to me really is, right? Like, you're going to have some people that obviously are going to be uber geeks. They're going to understand the intricacies of the transformer architecture. You should be able to debate me on they'll literally debate me and probably even win. We should actually do this type of optimization for your weights and shit like that. I'm like, cool, great. You know more than me, right? Like, I'm not pretending I know all the stuff, right? I know enough to be dangerous. That's all I know, okay? But the reality is the vast majority of people aren't that, nor should they, right? Because you, as a developer, what you want is you want to build something really cool. You want to know enough to be able to do it. So if I was to be one specific thing which may age itself out in this podcast, is learn, for the love of dear God, how to vibe code.
Okay.
Like for the love of dear God, like, you're not putting that code in production. Please don't. Okay. But for example, like Casey Uncroft, she's this amazing PM we have at Databricks. If you don't know who she is, just watch the 2024 Data and AI Summit, where an actual bug happened. Yeah,
she's got curly hair. Yeah. I've seen her on I've seen her on stage do some stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, she's the one for 2024 where she actually went ahead and, like, an error actually happened, and she debugged it in front of the entire audience of Data AI Summit live. Okay, it's like, this is insane. Like, I'm like, oh my god, it almost looked like you were planning that. And she's like, no. It's like, yeah, I know, I know it wasn't, but like, it almost looked like it. It's like, damn, you were good, right? But she had a LinkedIn post recently where she was talking about how replacing 20 PRDs with one demo example, right? A brilliant way to explain to developers, the engineers, what she wants to have built by just giving them a prototype right from the get-go. So they're like, oh, got it, no problem. Now I understand what you're saying. So don't make them read 20 pages of PRDs. Here's the context. Here's what I need to deliver. Boom. Great way for communication between PMs and engineers, right? So I'm saying to you, like, even if all you're doing is prototyping, I'm saying to you, yes, prototype your vibe code your prototype, so that way it's easier to communicate with your fellow engineers. What is it that you're trying to build, right?
Yeah.
So that's the one tidbit that's sort of quote unquote new. I'm sure 5-10 years from now, when people are listening to this podcast, Daniel, like, we'll have something else that, like, vibe code. Oh, that's so old school. We get so we're timing this for November 2025. Okay,
totally.
This particular statement. Okay.
Yeah. No, totally. And I'd be interested to know how companies can balance the conflict of C-levels having this FOMO, as you mentioned, like they all want to be doing AI, versus in practice it's going to fail. and it will fail and fail and fail, and you just got to keep rinse and repeat until they get it right. So how do you manage that? Because I can imagine there'll be an impatientness from the C-level. There'll be the engineering and the development team who are failing. How do you manage that dynamic?
This is unfortunately like a standard problem and has nothing to do with Gen AI. It's just basically the soft skills of working with your stakeholders. I mean, admittedly enough, this one's a bit more extreme. So, like for example, there's a blog post coming out by Jeannie Chu and Connor Murphy from our AI forward deployment engineering team. These are the folks in Databricks that actually are damn good at AI. Okay, they know their stuff. It's led by Brooke Winnick, by the way. You were talking about the podcast originally, the Brooke and I were doing. So it's led by Brooke's team. Okay.
Okay.
And so they have a blog coming out. I probably don't have the wording completely right, but it's like the hidden technical debt of Gen AI systems or something like that, right? The reason I bring that up is very apropos to exactly what you're talking about. Like, how do you deal with that? And one of the key call outs in the blog post is very much this idea that, like, the soft skills of working with stakeholders. It's super, super important. Now, part of the reason I'm telling you how the vibe code is like, well, then you can also show the CXO staff what you're doing quickly.
Right.
And you say, and then because they see a prototype, you can say, look, right away, here are going to be the problems. We don't know if this can go into production. We don't know if this is going to work. Blah, 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 blah. But the point is that they get to see something right away or soon. And so it's easier for them to understand, oh, this will work on an individual computer. This might fail when I need to scale out to 5 million people.
Yeah.
Right. And so in the end, it's just about communication. So the great thing about Gen AI, outside the fact that it tends to hallucinate everything, right, is that your ability to go ahead and actually vibe code something really cool, really quick, and then be able to present that to fellow engineers, to the CXO staff, so they can understand what is it you're trying to do.
Yeah, totally. And then from the flip side, how can leaders encourage a culture where, experimentation is the norm or becomes
100%. It comes from the top down from that standpoint. The idea that the people, we understand there's failure, that it's okay. This goes back to, like, for example, I used to run brown bags in the various companies that my past, right? And the brown bags were for us to basically, specifically every week, different people would specifically talk about not just their successes, but also their failures. What worked, what didn't work. Yeah, so that way people could learn from it. And that's the whole point. You got to get people to learn these things. You're only going to learn if you also explain your failures.
Sure.
If you only explain your successes, don't get me wrong, that's awesome, and you should explain your successes. I'm not trying to trivialize successes here, but I'm also saying you actually need to explain well your failures, why it didn't work, so that way people can learn from that. Maybe your failure actually is the basis of a success later on too. You don't know.
Yeah.
So you have to
particularly as there's going to be more failures, right? So there's certainly more things to showcase than successes. Yeah.
And so,
as
to
you
your
say,
point,
that's
exactly,
probably the stepping stones to success, the failures, right?
Exactly. And to your point, exactly, like you have to have leaders that actually understand that's an important part of the process. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay, great. And then in terms of like governance and doing this responsibly, obviously AI, it can be as much as a cultural shift as a technical one, right? So how do you foster like responsible experimentation? How can you, encourage innovation, but also maintaining that kind of trust and accountability, security?
Okay, well, I mean, thank you for this wonderful allowing me to toss in the Unity catalog, which is like that's the whole reason we built it. Like the whole reason we built Unity catalog in the first place was to make it easier that there is a set of governance with lineage embedded. So anything from data ingestion to what type of models were you running, what version of them, accessing what data. Okay. You have to have a culture where you build that in, even if you're not using UC in a catalog, right? Obviously, me being Databricks, I'm going to pitch that. But the point is that you want to structure things so that every single developer, every single stakeholder understands what is it you're working with, what is it you're prototyping, and why. That's it. Like it's just, you have to be able to communicate that clearly. If you're not able to communicate that clearly, whether it's through documentation, through vibe coding, through using UC, hell, an Excel spreadsheet that contains all the weights, I don't care. Obviously, I don't think that's the greatest idea, the last part, but the point is, unless you're able to communication is key for all this stuff, right? And if you don't find ways to communicate this stuff, to your point exactly, why did you build it? How was it built? What weights? What source data did you use? Oh my God, people are going to be concerned about these things. And so that's the whole point. You want to ensure that people understand all this stuff so they feel comfortable knowing that, yes, we're taking risks, but here's what it is, and we're still doing it responsibly.
Yeah. And with some of the use cases that you've seen, Denny, with some of the Databricks customers, where are most people getting it wrong? And I guess what advice would you give to people kind of starting this journey now to ensure as best success as possible?
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So those are actually two different questions. So I actually tackle them in reverse order. Okay. What I suggest for people to your starting journey, unequivocally, it is to vibe code, to use Databricks Free Edition, whatever. I don't care. Just use something to learn how this stuff works. An important aspect that is often lost in all this is this idea of play. Okay? In other words, you're going to play around and have fun to create something, right? Mm-hmm. I'm saying unequivocally that unless you yourself, the developer, are going to play, you're never going to be able to create.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to go back to the old school. Like for me, I'll probably go create by playing. Like for example, when I first tried to understand how the transformer architecture worked and how to fine tune models and all this stuff, what was I doing? I was literally running the bagel test. And so for all my New York friends, they are so angry every time I talk about this. Where basically I said, yeah, I make the model, give me the answer. Which bagel is better, Montreal or New York? And of course, Llama, DBRX, all these other models early on, they're all like, yeah, Montreal. I'm like, good. So that was my bagel test. Now, that's a dumbass way of playing. But still, it helped me understand early on how the stuff worked. Because I was playing, just because I wanted to go ahead and have it always answer Montreal. Bagels are better, right?
Yeah.
What's prompt engineering? Oh, how do I go ahead and get the LLM to go ahead and give the response about Montreal bagels, but in the voice of Anthony Bourdain, whatever. I'm just playing, right? I'm just playing, right? But then your other question was about what typically leads to failure, right? Like true failure, not the fail as in you failed in the experiment. Yeah. But true failure as in you can't do it. What leads to true failure unequivocally is that because you don't have developers that have the basis for playing in the first place, that's the foundation that you need. If you don't have developers that know how to play, you've already lost the game, right? But the other one is unequivocally the other half of this in order for true success. In other words, again, you're going to have 20 failures. That's fine. But true success with Gen AI is stakeholders that actually understand what is the business goal here. It's okay that they don't. I'm not even angry if they don't know it in the beginning. But that means they actually have to work close enough with the developers who are building these prototypes so they can understand, now I realize what I want to build, mm-hmm. Which is fine. I'm not saying you have to go in knowing the entire answer. Heck, ask the LLM to give you an idea and then start with that if all I care, right? But the point is that you will adjust accordingly. You will adapt accordingly. You will shift accordingly. If everybody thinks that this is one hard, specific solution and there's only one solution, you've already failed right from the beginning. Yeah. It doesn't matter how many experiments you run, right? So it's the two together that unequivocally have to happen. So,
mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. And then my last question, Denny, in terms of the future. So, from your perspective and from what you're allowed to tell us on today's podcast, but what's next for Databricks and the broader sort of data community, in terms of helping these organizations to become.
I'm going to give you a more generic answer because not because I don't want to give you the details, but the details keep shifting. That's all. That's the reason.
Okay.
So the more generic answer, but I think it's still very applicable today, at least, is that everybody wants you to build agents right now. Everybody's talking about agent this, agent that, agent this, agent that. Right? That's all they want to do. But very few companies know how to help you define what is good. In other words, is the model good enough? Is the agent good enough? What is good enough when you build this? How do you measure? How do you evaluate? Okay. And so the thing that we've been focusing on, and it's became very apparent early on with all the customers we work with on this stuff, is that we're trying to help you define what's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like, it's that simple. Now, that good could be in the form of evaluations. The good could be in the form of feedback loops. The good could be better benchmarks. The good could be evaluation data sets. The good could be vibe code your way to generating enough test cases. Look, you've been driven, like, the actual details of what good is going to be different based on the scenario that you're in. But ultimately, when everybody talks about agents, they miss the point about what's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that's what we're doing. That's what we're trying to help you do that. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, it's been great having you on the show, Denny. Thank you so much for sparing me an hour of your time at 6 a.m. in the morning. I appreciate it. And what I'll do as well is I'll make sure I tag you in the podcast on my LinkedIn and Spotify. So anybody who wants to follow you or check out some of your content, they can easily find you. And yeah, when the Data Brew kicks off again, I'll be sure to be tuning back in and listen and follow along. But yeah, thank you so much. Hope you've enjoyed it. It's been great having you. And keep doing an awesome job.
Thanks very much, Dan. I really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to talk to you and your crew here, man. Seriously.
Cheers, Denny. Catch you soon.
Take yourself.